Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRN-FM, and I am joined by the incredible, inspirational Michael J. Russ. I want to welcome you, Michael, and say hello.
Hello to you as well. Yeah, beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Without a doubt. From your perspective and my perspective, every day is a beautiful day. You can always find something to wonder at, without a doubt, and that's why I'm known as the woman of wonder. All kinds of magic and miracles are unfolding in my world, including the topic that you sent for today. And it just so happens that the universe always seems to align things. I've been cleaning my house. I've been creating an energy of decluttering so that I can allow the space for new things to come in. And in my space of decluttering, I found a little tiny book that had fallen into the cracks of my world, and it's by a gentleman. His name's Tim Freak, and it's spelled like F-R-E-K-E, not as in freak, but he's a stand-up philosopher, and he said the reason he chose that profession, he said, with the last name like Freak, you have to have a sense of humor, which I always found so delightful. But he has such a unique perspective on life, and he wrote a tiny little book called Lucid Living. And he designed it just to be read in about an hour. And part of it, I just opened it up, and it was exactly in alignment with the topic that Michael wanted to speak about. So I just would like to read. He says, when you dream, you are both the source of the dream and a character within the dream. Your identity is inherently paradoxical in the same way your identity right now is also inherently paradoxical. You are both the source of the life dream and a character within it. You are the life dreamer imagining yourself to be a particular person in the life dream, which I thought was really, really interesting. And he says, while you identify exclusively with your life persona, you'll remain unconsciously engrossed in the life dream. And he goes on to say later on in the chapter, he said, everything you experience is a manifestation of your essential nature. So everything is showing you something about who you are, like a dream. You're continually dreaming up new situations that give you the opportunity to become more conscious. Lucid living is wholeheartedly engaging with an ordinary life as an epic adventure of awakening. And I just love that. I loved it because there's so much, when I was a child, when I would fall asleep, my dreams were so vivid, I was never quite sure if my awakened state was what I was dreaming or my dream state was what I was dreaming. And it took a while for me to sort of navigate through that. But I love the idea that we have this experience that as the dreamer, and if we are a character in our dream, which is when many different types of things, you can create and you can control things in your dream. And we forget that we actually have the ability to do that in our awakened state. The fact that if I wake up on what they would refer to as the wrong side of the bed, I have an opportunity to pull my feet back up and put them back in the bed and take them out and put them on the other side of the bed. The teachers in one of the classes that I took with Carol Collins, they have an exercise where you walk into the state, you walk forward, just take a few steps, and then you pivot your body 180 degrees and walk the other direction. And you think, does it really have to be that simple? Can I really change the feelings? If I'm feeling the opposite of grateful, how do I find things to be grateful for that I can shift into something else and align myself to that true self and become a magnet for a more positive experience? And I know you do a lot of inner work, and you're very good at shifting. And I think that the more that you're able to consciously shift from one frequency back to a higher frequency, things tend to manifest at a very, very rapid rate and expands your whole energy field. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, Michael. I mean, are you awake or asleep at the moment? I already know the answer to that.
You and I have a different dream state going on and have had for some time. I think I was a more prolific dreamer when I was a lot younger. However, it's an interesting concept, how to shift how you feel. And, I'm a believer. I've always been a believer, and it's where you place your focus and your attention. And I can only go back to a golf analogy because it keeps it pretty simple. But if I'm walking down the fairway after I've had a previous experience on the hole before that was not to my liking, where I thought I could have done better. But one of the things that I do at that particular point is, instead of focusing on that, I quickly look at something like bird flying by. There are osprey fly by, and I just look at the osprey and just observe the osprey for a little bit as I'm walking or as I'm driving and looking at something, right? I may have some music playing in my ear, which I often do when I play. Sometimes I have music playing in my ear, and I will focus on that particular song, and it just totally takes me away from whatever that was. And then, you know what? I'm ready for something fresh, something new. It's interesting because what I'd mentioned to you earlier is that I'd heard something from Abraham Hicks that 17 seconds. It was really an interesting piece of information, that it takes 17 seconds of focus in another direction in order to shift your thought. Isn't that interesting? So I have been doing this, and I look at a bird for 17 seconds. I'll watch it flying. I'll look at a flower that's maybe sitting right down, or admire some greenery, that an interesting formation that someone has made into a hedge. They've taken a hedge and made it into something interesting. Or I'll look at a house. I'm always looking at architecture, and I love to play golf and look at architecture, or drive and look at architecture. I'm always interested in those kinds of designs, and so that temporarily takes my focus away from whatever happened. And it helps me reset, because that's what you're always doing. You're always resetting in life. And this 180-degree turn is a reset. She calls it a pivot, and same thing. We're resetting ourselves. And when we find ourselves going down a deep, dark rabbit hole, you got to reset. And that's kind of what life does for you. Is we have this tendency to get into these mood swings, so to speak. And somebody says, "Yeah, I can't. I'm in this mood. Nah, I can't do that. I'm gonna cancel because I'm in this mood thing. I'm in a sour mood." And I said, "Well, shake yourself out of it." The fact you're in that mood because you're continually perpetuating the thoughts that you're in the mood. Your inner conversation is validating that you're continuing to go down the rabbit hole. Well, stop that. How do you stop that? Well, number one, stop talking about it. Stop giving energy to it. Stop giving energy and life to the bad mood. And that's how you get out of it. And that's exactly what Abraham Hicks had said last week when I listened to something. I said, yeah, that's what I've been doing. Don't give life to what you don't want.
Right.
Is the term. And it's what we have this tendency to do all the time. Somebody did something, somebody said something, we want to give life to it, we want to expand it, we want to expand it to the point where it's the only thing we think about, and now it's interfering with everything else in our life, and we in our connections and our relations with other people, and blah, blah, our ability to work, and, you name it. I mean, it's like, dang it, let's just see that for what it is. It's just a reflection of your own thinking at the time. Now the rest of your day is going to be a reflection of that, if that's all you can focus on, if that's where your attention is. And so, and again, I tell people this on the golf course. I see it happen all the time. It's like this thing that has become human nature that we need to change big time. That people will just cannot get a mistake or what they would call a failure out of their head. And I'm going, if you keep thinking like that, then the next exchange you have with that club and the ball is going to reflect exactly what it is that you did back there. The thoughts that you've been unable to extricate from your mind. You've been unable to let them go. And so that's, I focus on something different to answer your question. I just focus on the wind, how the wind is moving trees, how it's moving a tree around. You look at that for a little bit, and you start to say, wow, that's really kind of cool how that's moving around. And you've forgotten about it. You've moved on. And
without a doubt.
Yeah, it's so much fun to do that, though. And I do that when I'm, if somebody, runs me off the road or tries to run me off the road when I'm driving, or because their attention is elsewhere, I'll do that very same thing. I might have a moment of angst, and it will be a simple, a split second of angst because it happened. However, the key is to shift as quickly as possible. Shift your thought to the song that's playing on the radio, or if you're listening to a book, the book itself, what's being said, or a car that you saw go by. Wow, that was really cool. A horse trailer, a really long, expensive horse trailer. They're going somewhere cool to do some kind of show. Yeah, think about that. Whatever brings you, whatever makes you feel, whatever brings you joy, whatever makes you feel good, whatever puts a smile on your face. Go there. Stay away from the other side of the street, so to speak, where things are dark and not so good. So that's really what I do. What do you do?
Well, it's interesting, Michael, because as you were speaking, the word that came to mind was momentum. And then all I could think of, and it's so funny because you're out on the golf course and I'm thinking about snowballs, and I'm thinking about how that word and how different euphemisms came into reality and into being. Because if you were out and you're living down south, but I live up north, and if we have a nice snow and you want to build a snowman, you start off by just making a tiny little ball of snow, and then you roll it and the snow sticks to it if you're lucky, and it just sticks to it and sticks to it and sticks to it until all of a sudden then you've got the base of the snowman, and it's this big, huge ball. Now, if you were to roll that down a hill, it's going to build up momentum and get even more snow. And growing up in Canada, we did that a lot. And let it roll down, and then wherever we couldn't budge it anymore. But you think about that. It's like it gets to the point, and it keeps attracting and sticking on more stuff. So if you are in a high vibrational state, and you're sticking on more stuff, you're sticking on a lot more positive things, and you've got a big, big snowball of positive energy to work with. But the converse of that's also true, that when you're in a low vibrational state, you start sticking on things, and next thing you know, you're manifesting unwanted circumstances. And I think Abraham said that she calls them teachable moments. That when you have these individuals in your life that you're like, I really don't like it when they do that, guess what? They're going to show up and they're going to be inspired to show even more of what you don't like. And it's so funny. And she said, first it'll be family members, then it'll be strangers, it'll be nature, so something, and it goes on and on and on and on. But I think if you achieve that higher vibration, we have that ability to really start manifesting what it is that we're desiring. And so for me, I always try to draw in experiences. And when we did the last show with Carol Collins, we were talking about ice cream. And some days it's just a really good day for an ice cream cone, no matter where you are. And if you're having a bad day or whatever it is that you enjoy, maybe you don't want sweets, maybe you want to go out and have a really beautiful fruit salad or take a walk in the park. And a lot of times that's what I'll do too. I'll take my shoes off and I'll put my feet on the ground, or I'll just sit down and just take a look around and find the things that I love around me. And it just seems to start to flow effortlessly. And many years ago, and this was early on in the Esther and Jerry Hicks, when Jerry was still living, teachings, and she used the example of being in a boat and trying to get somewhere where you're paddling, and you're paddling upstream. Well, you're constantly fighting against the current. But if you sort of take your oars out of the water and you just let the current carry you, it will bring you to an amazing place. And so in my astrology, I'm a Pisces, and I really do better when I just allow things to flow. And I'm getting ready to travel tomorrow. And so I open up my suitcase and I start making piles of things, and so I don't forget. And I'm just not allowing these individuals that are showing up in my day that are not in alignment with what I want to bring in and want to have travels with ease and grace. I want to be in Michael J. Russ's travel plans where everything flows and I make all my connections, right?
Yeah, it's a state of mind. It's a state of being. You got to, I might stay up till 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes, making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. But then that's it. I let it go, and then I get some rest if I can, and then I'm sometimes I don't sleep too well because I'm excited by the prospect of where I'm going and who I'll meet and what we'll experience. It's wonderful. Something that you said there at the beginning of your explanation there of kind of where you go with this is momentum. I like that word. I like it because momentum is something that you can feel, and I feel it whenever I watch a sports team play. Even if I'm not so much into the sport, I can watch it. However, I can feel the momentum. I can feel the momentum in the game back and forth, and I'll say to Sandy, if she's there watching it with me or whoever it is, they don't have the momentum on their side. There's something mentally that they're focused on that is blocking their momentum, that has halted their momentum, the momentum they had. They've either become fearful or doubtful of something. And once fear enters into the picture, your momentum is snapped, it's gone. And you have to get it back by eliminating the fear and making that shift, making that pivot, getting rid of the doubts, believing in yourself, changing the conversation that's going on in your head, and that's the only way that it happens. But I can see it, and sometimes it just never comes back. And you can see how some teams just go right down the dumper, so to speak. What's interesting, because I'm a big soccer fan, women's women's national league, national team fan for soccer, and the women's national team, USA team. However you might say it, I'm searching for those. But,
I think you're right. The national team.
Yeah. So the ladies, the USA women's national team. There we go. Okay. So I was so blown away by the way that they performed in the Olympics, because they always had this momentum, and it was really, really interesting to see. And the first time I've ever seen 3 games played in such a short period of time, where they had actually more than 3, continual momentum, and until they won. They never gave up. They always had, they were always looking for opportunity. They always had a positive mindset. They never had the look on their face or the body language that they were defeated. And we're talking about a team that actually played several overtimes. 2 overtimes in the 2 games leading up to the championship. 2 overtimes of 15 minutes each. My gosh, that's a lot of soccer in the heat.
Yeah,
right?
it is. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm telling this to our audience here on PRN-FM because it's really fun if you want to get a sense of momentum to just, while you're watching your team play, instead of becoming emotionally involved in whether your team is winning or losing, sense the momentum of what's going on. Look at the body language, look at the facial expressions, look at how the players move, and you can get a sense of whether the momentum is going one way or the other. And it's so much fun. And you can do it in relationships as well. In your own relationship, you can do it at work. And if you're working with a team in a team environment, you can sense the momentum that's shifting one way or another. And I love that. And it's a good way to tap into your own sense, your own understanding of the energy and the movement of feelings, people's feelings and emotion. It's a lot of fun. But I like the fact that, drawing upon experiences, because I do that myself, and I teach that to people when they're playing golf. It's like when you have a good, solid experience, and you need to, instead of forgetting about it, you need to harness the energy and the power and the sovereignty that comes from what you did, and carry that with you. So when things don't go as planned, understand that you have a contrasting experience that you can draw upon to get that knowingness back, right? To get that I can do this back, instead of when the I don't know if I can do this creeps in. You can think, you know what, I did that about a month ago. Yeah, I know I can do it. I know it can happen. So I'm going to now shift my energies and focus to making sure it happens. And I know that emanates from inside of me, which is the other thing that the other point that I believe Abraham Hicks made. It's not in the video we just saw. One of the other ones was somebody that actually was talking about the fact that it's what we focus on within ourselves. Everything emanates from us. Life is not an experience that happens to us. It's an experience that we generate ourselves. It comes from us. And this is the mistake that a lot of people make as human beings, is thinking that the experience is happening to them, which is a victim consciousness. And in that state, you're only giving away all of your power and ability to control how you feel and what your focus and attention is on to begin with. And that's where there was a golf quote by one of the previous professional who's no longer with us, but one of the early greats, that was talking about the fact that you're the one. You're not playing against someone else. You're playing against what they call par. You're playing against the rules of the game. That's what you're doing, and you have complete and total control over how you do that. You cannot control what happens with somebody else, and yet I see players all the time, just like in anything, getting caught up in what other people are saying and doing and how they're functioning and what's going on with them, and not on the fact that they're in charge of their own experience. They're in charge of beginning from their feelings and emotions and what emanates from that. And it's an important distinction that I feel needs to be made kind of over and over again, because life keeps throwing you curveballs, and you can either adjust yourself to hit them or just let them go by. Focus on the next pitch.
Yeah, I always like to try to focus on the next one whenever I can. And it's so funny, Michael, because you use the word, fear or frustration. And I think when you're in a low vibrational state, whenever you feel fear or doubt or frustration, you're attracting those experiences that you don't want. Your energy, you can sort of contract, and then you're resonating with that frequency, and then you bring in challenges. And I had a piece of furniture that I had to repair the other day. Somebody at my Airbnb broke something off this piece of furniture. And I know better. I know I needed wood glue, but I thought, well, I have this super glue, right? So it's just a tiny little piece of wood. It should stick on with super glue. And I thought, well, I don't want to get my fingers stuck. So I put on a glove. I only had one glove, a latex glove. So I put that on, and I thought, well, I'm not going to get it on my other finger. Well, sure enough, I opened the lid and to take the lid off the super glue. And next thing I know, I had it all over my fingers. It just went everywhere. And I thought, well, no, I'm still going to do this. I can still get this on. I put the super glue on the back, and I held it in place, and the darn thing fell off. And then I started to get frustrated, and I thought, you know what? This is a teachable moment for me. I need to put it down. I need to walk away. I need to get what I know is the proper implement, which is a wood glue and some clamps, and just do it right. And it shifted my vibration. But it was interesting because at that point, when you look at the law of attraction doesn't judge. It responds to the energy you're putting out. So if I was getting stuck in my cycle of negative thinking and that low vibration, that frustration, do you know that if I didn't allow it to go, I'd probably walk out of the door and twist my ankle, or I don't know what else would happen. Who knows? Maybe I would have permanently glued something that I didn't want even to have glued. But it was, and I track it. And so if I'm tracking it back to where the initial instance of frustration, probably the frustration that this particular piece got broken. Mm-hmm. And if I would have just been like, well, it's just the way things are, instead of going, well, I have to fix this right away, and getting into the energy of it, guess what? My energy demonstrated to me where I was vibrationally. And I did walk away and then shift, and then I found other things to focus on. And I haven't even gone back to even glue that little silly piece. I put it away in the cupboard, and I know that when I'm ready, I'll go back to doing it right. And that's
That's awesome. I guess, we all have a different way of pivoting. And if not, it's something that we should set the intention to have at our disposal, is a way to pivot. And we all can all do it differently. There are many different ways to get it done. The bottom line is getting it done. When the negative thought, and then the lower vibrational thought thinking occurs, you have to have a way that you can pivot out of it as quickly as possible. And that's what I was mentioning with the 17-second thing, which I thought was very unique.
I love that
number. But if you can just do it for 17 seconds, evidently, that it will, the other lower vibrational frequency thinking will disappear.
17 adds up to be an 8. 1 and 7 is an 8. So if you think about the 8 and the infinity, and you and I have both tuned in and played a little bit with the infinity wave and walking that and what that experience is.
I like it.
And for do you want to explain a little bit about what you experienced? Sure.
Yeah, I mean it's about the infinity wave. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The concept was in a Pam Gregory video with another young lady whose name does not come to me at this particular time,
and me as well. I'm sorry about that.
Infinity. The infinity. We'll have to look that up and put it in the description. I'll have to find it for you and shoot it off to you. And the fact is that it's a beautiful concept. There are two different things. An infinity circle that you can walk, and which is designed to kind of really take you out of whatever mindset that you're in and put you in a state of positive infinite flow by putting two objects, whatever they are, about a meter apart. That's 4 feet, there, give or take, a centimeter, and you literally stand in the middle, make a very contorted move with your hands that is unnatural, to kind of get your body alert to the fact that, hey, something's happening here. I'm about to change things, and you then relax your body and just walk around whichever way your senses, your intuition tells you to walk. Turn left, turn right, walk around the circle, and you. At that point, just really not thinking anything and just feeling what's coming to you and sensing what's coming into your mind. It's interesting because my experience of it is that whatever was on your mind at the beginning of the 3-minute walk, and it's about 3 minutes that you want to do this, is not there at the end of the 3-minute walk.
You're right.
That's my explanation of it, because you're walking around, and sometimes I've changed directions and gone the other way, and you think to yourself, okay, I'm going right on this thing, and then I'm going to turn around and go left, and you're going, yeah, but did I really go left? I don't know if you ever had that experience, but you turn around, you walk back the way. Aren't I going the same way I was going, but I just turned around? It's absolutely mind-blowingly beautiful. I think it's a little bit more than that. because the conversation goes on for a while and there are other aspects of it. But there's that, and then there's an infinity meditation that you can do for 3 minutes or so, which involves visualization.
The woman's name is Hope Fitzgerald, and she described it as a gift that came through the universe, that it was something that was for flow and compassion and I can't think what the other word was that she used. But what's so interesting is that I studied energy medicine with Donna Eden many years ago, and Donna Eden is probably one of the pioneers in energy medicine. She had a heart attack when she was in her 20s, and she was basically allergic to everything except for red meat. And she went to doctor after doctor after doctor, and she just could not get better. And she figured out she could see energy, and she understood different energy patterns. And so she started to untangle her own energy. Now, she calls the figure eight or the infinity wave the Celtic weave is one of the things. So it's just basically a simple figure eight pattern or infinity sign. And she said that when you do this and you draw it with your finger, and what you do is, if you can just imagine, and this is different than what Hope does with walking it, which I really love, like you said, you lose time when you forget about what you were even walking into. But if you move your your finger in a simple figure eight, and then you make it bigger and bigger and bigger around you, it brings in harmony and balance and unity and rhythm. And what I find when I make the figure eight with my finger is my body actually starts to move. I start swaying my hips, and so then you sort of feel like you're a Hawaiian hula dancer and creating that energy. But if you look at it in different cultures, it's really what it does is it integrates. When you do it in this method, it's the upper and lower body, the right and the left. And I think that's why I find my hips moving. And I think that as you're walking the infinity wave on the ground, as you described, Michael, you're really strengthening your connection to heaven and earth, whether you want to call it earth energy, sky energy, or, whatever it is. But between that earth and sky, there you are, and there are your 7 chakras, and in the middle is your heart. And so you're connecting with that. And I don't know about you, but when I was walking the infinity wave, my hands started swinging different directions, but then I brought them up above my head, and I'm thinking, geez, this is really funny. I'm glad nobody's watching me. But I was just really in that flow state. Wherever my hands wanted to go, I let them go. And I think that that's really, when you're in that flow state and you're in that momentum of higher vibration, you're allowing it to flow wherever it wants to go. And it's really quite miraculous. I just love it. And so, like when you achieve that higher vibration, then everything within your body is starting to feel good. And I think that that's what the Celtic weave and the other, you're starting to feel good, and then you're creating, whether it takes 17 seconds or not, you're able to, you do it more and more and more, and you're sustaining it. And that's really what momentum is about too. It's not just about getting the ball rolling. It's about sustaining that momentum. And then you have that feeling good, you're vibrating, and then you're attracting more positive experiences and more positive and more positive, more positive. And then you're thinking, wow, really, the universe is truly endlessly abundant. And then I like to practice gratitude and just to anchor it in. I'm grateful for what I have, and I'm grateful what is going to be coming in. It's lots and lots of fun.
You made me think of something when you were talking there about figure eight, drawing a figure eight. Back when Glenn Brooks and I were doing this radio show, and we did an episode on Indian clubs, because Art, his friend, a good friend, tennis player, was into using figure eights to help people, the figure eight process, to movement to get people to help people understand that the tennis swing, that it is a figure eight. That's what you're doing, is a figure eight. And Art is really big on Instagram and showing people. Art Carrington is his name, with 2 R's, and it's really cool to watch how he involves the figure eight, the infinity movement, in helping young people understand and pick up tennis in a faster way. However, I have 1, 2, and 3 pound clubs. Indian clubs.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do. I bought them way back when we were doing this, and you do the infinity movement with the Indian clubs. And if you look up Indian clubs on YouTube, you will see them using these clubs to do an infinity movement with the clubs, up, left, and right. And it's really a lot of fun. I didn't think about it until just right now. It's amazing that I've been walking it. But I said, I used to do this. And you get the same cathartic experience when you swing the clubs, because your body's involved and the weight of the club's centrifugal force is working there at the same time. And it's a really neat concept. And you can get a couple of clubs, 1-pounders online, and because there are people making them. And it's just a fun movement to do for 5 minutes or so. It works your core, and it makes you more stable, and it is, it's cathartic. It gets you thinking about everything other than what you were thinking about before you started using the clubs, and it also it sparks your imagination and your creativity. So if you have an issue that you are looking to get through a challenge of some kind, you need to think something out. And walking an infinity circle or swinging clubs. And you don't necessarily, by the way, need Indian clubs. You can use a couple of bocce balls, or you can use anything that has a little bit of weight with it, and you just basically, you're swinging your arms, making a up to what you want to do is make sure that you're doing under and over, not over and under, because over and down is over and under is an unnatural move for the shoulder. So you want to go you want to swing. You want to swing to make sure that you're swinging under and up, instead of over and under. It's kind of an interesting concept, but you'll know because you'll feel it in your shoulders. But it's really neat to do that movement, and you can also do it really slow, like Tai Chi. You can do it really slow.
Wow.
And without anything in your hands, you can just basically do the movement with and flow back and forth, just shifting your weight from one side to the other. It's really rather cool, and it serves the same purpose if you're just somewhere where you don't have your Indian clubs, or you don't have something else, or you can't lay out a foot on 4 feet on the floor. You can do this infinity movement and just close your eyes and get into it for a moment, and I guarantee you it'll put you in a different space. Which
wow.
It was designed to do. But it's a good way to pivot if you're walk into a bathroom somewhere and do the infinity movement if you're at a meeting or something.
Yeah, well, I had a great visual, Michael, when you were speaking about the Indian clubs, because energy flows where attention goes. And really, as you're moving, and I love the discernment of why. I mean, it actually, without even realizing, you illustrated the difference between low vibration versus high vibration, because if your body is not designed to go a certain direction, as you said, and I'm not going to illustrate it correctly, you can describe it again, but if you're moving the incorrect direction, you're feeling it physically in your body, it's harming your shoulders. So if you use that as a metaphor for your energy flowing the wrong direction, the incorrect opposite of positive direction, you're going to feel it. Whereas if you're flowing in the positive state and we're resonating with abundance, we're naturally finding that way into our life. It's funny, as I'm speaking, I'm moving my hand in a figure eight. Isn't that funny, Michael?
Yeah. You can move one hand in a figure eight. I have an Indian club in my hand, although I don't have one in my hand. But I just from your sensory explanation, I'm sitting there, I'm moving my hand in a figure eight. I wasn't even consciously aware of it. So thank you for that, because that's what I'm going to do as I'm walking through the airport. It's cool. Yeah, you. Yeah. What is she doing? Anyway, if you're experiencing, it's interesting. Here's an interesting thing. Her Miss Fitzgerald's infinity meditation is. I did it on the plane once when I think I was coming back from Portugal, where I just sat there and I just experienced this. I was the center, and I saw the wave coming through my heart and around, and then back through my heart and coming around and back through my heart again. I was just doing that. And what Ms. Fitzgerald suggests is that you put you think you attach energy in the form of gratitude or something like that so you're seeing like a little ball of energy go around this thing in a figure eight, go around in the figure eight in that movement, that energy being gratitude or love or another awesome high level, high frequency, vibrational frequency. So it makes it interesting, and it really, really does focus you. Because you're seeing this, it's like a ball rolling up, like you've got a little track with a ball on it, and it just does this figure eight right through your heart, and you feel it when it comes through your heart and back and around and through your heart again. There's like an explosion of energy. It's really kind of neat to do that. The mind's a powerful tool. We don't give it credit for its ability to help us manifest whatever it is that we want in life, and to be able to focus us in different directions and help us pivot quickly. We become our own worst enemy.
Sure.
When we deny that we have that ability, that we have this power to do that.
Well, and I think when you walk that infinity wave, at least I feel this, it immediately calms me. Yeah, and I will put a link to the Pam Gregory video on our with the write-up, because it is really, really powerful. And and I think that one of the things that Hope said, that when she was speaking with Pam, she asked the question, she said, do you believe in magic? And then to that, my answer would be what Rick Rubin said: we're dealing in a magical realm. Nobody knows why or how it works. And there's so much I think about in that. Like, we don't need to know the hows and whys. We just need to believe and know that we're in that realm, and know that we have these tools available to us. And I think even that pivot, when you're pivoting, because when I was walking the infinity waves the very first time, there was a point where I just stopped. And why I stopped, I don't know. And I wanted to walk the other direction. And then I walked the other direction for the rest of my 3.5 minutes or whatever time it was. But
you could be doing anything. It's like whatever your body tells you to do, whatever your state tells you to do. Yeah, that's the beautiful. It's never the same for anybody. There's no one way or one way you should do it, or one way you should feel. Whatever direction you go, you go. It's a neat interview though between Hope and Pam. So
it is.
Our audience should really like that, and be open-minded. I mean, you got to be open-minded if you're listening to the show, because we cover a whole lot of different things.
I know.
All of them, energetically, upbeat, uplifting, positive. It's more than one person has said. Life is meant to be fun. The question is, how do you mitigate everything around you to keep it fun?
Right.
Because being the player in your own life play, as the gentleman you said, a little bit earlier,
Kim Freak.
Freak is. You started the show out. Yeah, we are protagonists in our own play, and what's interesting about that is when you adopt that mindset, then you know that that you're in charge. Mm-hmm. You have been tasked with making sure that you are in control of your thoughts, words, feelings, emotions, responses, all of that stuff. You have total control over that. And then it's almost like somebody gives you a key when you finally get it. Like someone gives you a key and to understanding the key that opens the door to a completely different way of living and perceiving what happens around you. And seeing its relationship to you in a completely different way. And then you combine that with what you said earlier in terms of your focus and attention. That's the experience you get. Whatever you're focused on is what you get. And whatever emotions you apply, that's what you get. And so what most people have a tendency to do, it is said, and I firmly believe this, is focus, put a lot of time, energy, and investment into what you don't want in terms of your thinking, what you want to avoid in life. Right? You spend a lot of time talking about what you want to avoid instead of what you want. And the focus and energy that goes into what you want to avoid gives you what you want to avoid, not really what you want.
Right.
So we have to kind of like change get in our minds. We have to flip a switch and put positive feeling and emotion towards what we really want, and instead of what we don't. And I've said this before in terms of self-talk, is that's what most people do, is talk in terms of what they don't want. They reinforce what they don't want, and that energy and focus and investment goes right down the drain. And they wonder why their life isn't changing. They wonder why their life experience is the same as it always is. And that's really the point. That's why. And which is that old adage, change your thinking and your life changes as well. It's just that's how. There's a nuts and bolts behind it, and we talk a lot about it in different ways on this show, as we have.
Yeah, we definitely do. And I don't know, Michael, when you were speaking, it brought forth to my mindset the book by Dr. Joe Dispenza about breaking the habit of being yourself. Now, we don't really think about that we're in a habit. And we're so used to certain behaviors. But in the book, he talks about the power of elevated emotions aligning with clear intention. And he said that when you literally, you start to do different things in a different way so that you can reinforce the positive. So he says, like, if you hold a vision of yourself in that desired future that you want and infuse it with positive emotions like joy and gratitude, next thing you know, you're aligning your energy with that future reality. And it's sometimes hard for people to understand, but he's gone very much into the neuroplasticity of the brain. And so this alignment actually creates a coherent signal in the brain that the universe responds to, bringing your desired outcomes into manifestation, which I know it sounds strange, but that's what I loved about the book, because it's so anchored in science, and so consistently focus on positive thoughts, emotion. I know Michael and I talk about it week after week, but you can rewire your brain to attract those positive experiences, and then you're in that high vibrational state without you even thinking about it. And that's what Abraham said, that as you sustain that high vibration, it doesn't mean that, but when you're in that, you experience something that's lower vibration, guess what? You already have anchored in more high vibrational experiences. You can align yourself with that desired reality that's in that higher vibration more quickly.
And that is true. I love that. I love that explanation. That's perfect. Leave it to Joe Dispenza to give us the scientific take on it all.
I know.
There's so many different ways you can explain this. And not everybody's going to get the same explanation. Everybody's going to get it in a different way. Let's put it that way. But the word anchor is incredibly powerful in my view, because that's really what you do. Anchor into the positive, and instead of reinforcing the negative. And people want to know, how do I change? Yeah, there you go. You got to do the positive enough to anchor it in, and so that it's your new state of being. It's your new way of doing things. It's almost like a chef in the kitchen is the cook in the kitchen, whatever. If you cook for yourself and you do one thing one way, and then that way isn't necessarily the easiest way, and it may lead to negative thoughts and feelings about what you're doing. You might start calling it hard or difficult or troublesome. You can shift the way that you do something and the way you're cooking, the way you're doing the task, and it makes it fun.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's fun.
You're right.
And that's your association. You've gone from negative to positive by simply changing the way that you're doing something. And,
sure.
Let me give you an example here. Potatoes. Okay, most people don't like peeling potatoes. I love peeling potatoes. And I love peeling potatoes because I have this little device that ergonomically fits on my middle finger, and it curves with my middle finger, and it just curves over the potato. It's just a little thing, 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches square, and it's got the peeler. And it's this ergonomic. I don't know where I found this thing, but I said, wow, that is the most brilliant thing in the world. I would peel potatoes till the cows come home with that thing because it's so easy, right? And it makes a mundane task fun. And the whole idea is, if you're going to cook something, you want to make all the tasks involved fun, so that there's positive energy coming from you, flowing into the food, flowing into the surroundings. People come in, and if you're cooking for someone, they can feel it in the space. And that's just beautiful to me.
I can see you, Michael, with your potato peeler making figure eights, dancing around the kitchen. But you know what? The other thing
is, potatoes, absolutely.
You're putting love into it too. And that's really, part and parcel of it. And so one of the other things that Tim Freak said in that book about lucid living, when he talked about the conscious nature, and you think about, and it's interesting that I've refound this book and we bring up the infinity wave, because if you think about the poles, and then you've got this center point crossing, and he has an exercise where he says, give it a go. You appear to be a body in the world. And then he says, now flip it around. You're an awareness in the world and you're an awareness and the world exists in you. Try it again. You appear to be a person in time. Flip it around. You're a permanent presence witnessing an ever-changing flow of appearances. Try it again. You appear to be a separate individual. Flip it around. You're the life dreamer experience existing from a particular point of view. One more time. You appear to be a character in the life dream. Flip it around. You're the life dreamer, and everything is you. Lucid living is consciously being all that you are. Going back to that.
Love it. Lucid living.
Flip it around. So that, and that. Go ahead, please.
Love it. No, it's like a diamond. You can turn it around. It's got many facets to it. But that's a great way of putting it. It's a great visual, by the way, of flipping around. Flip it around your head. It's like every time you flip it, it's something different. And it's you, and you realize that you're not. I gotta put it straightforward and linear. You're multifaceted as a human soul, as a spirit in a physical body. You've got so much to do, and we just pigeonhole ourselves to thinking one way and being one way, and wondering why things aren't changing. How to do something different. And each one of these authors is including Abraham, telling us exactly how to do it in a different way, which is what I love about it. Because sometimes one way just doesn't get it. You just don't. It doesn't click with you. You don't see it, and you have once it's described in a different way, then hey, there you go. It's kind of like what we do here at the show. You describe the way you do things. I describe the way I do things. And hopefully they resonate with at least one person. I know that they're resonating with many more. And by the way, I know we talked about this last week after the show. We've got some listeners from Russia and where? Ukraine?
And Israel.
and Israel, right.
And Ireland and the UK and the Grenadine Islands and Canada and the US. And, you have some friends in the Grenadines. Is that correct? We have a pretty wide audience there.
My own podcast has a loyal listener from the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I hope to get down there to meet them someday on a cruise or something, because
they seem to be sharing the love and the connection with our show and the connection to love. I would love to connect with them on Instagram or wherever.
But
all of you.
It's true. I want to say hello. So thank you. So grateful, so appreciative. In especially in places that are experiencing a little more, I could say, physical strife than other places. There are some places in the world that are challenging to live, and if you've learned nothing else by listening to this show, it's that your outer world doesn't determine your happiness. That's something that you determine yourself. And it's evident in your listening to us that that message is resonating through. And I personally know we hope that you are actually applying what we say in your own way to make your life the most amazing experience that it can be. In light of or in spite of whatever your circumstances may be, that's a choice that you make in every minute, to be happy or not. And you can be happy, you can be loving and compassionate and grateful and empathetic in the face of anything that's going on. You can still resonate higher frequencies, and so we appreciate it very, very much that you're listening and sharing our podcast, sharing the show and our podcast with those you know who really need it.
For sure. And I always go back to Viktor Frankl, who was a prisoner of war in the Nazi concentration camp, who went on to write a book about the meaning in life and what it really means in the pursuit of happiness. And he was a Holocaust survivor, and what he learned about not just a sense of purpose, but what it means to live a meaningful human life, and how he said, freedom, human freedom is not a freedom to be from, but a freedom to. So, and I think that when we're creating something, we recognize the fact that we have an opportunity, if we have that freedom to choose how we want to focus our vibration, and that as we collectively come together, and I think it was Carolyn Mace who wrote the book, The Power of Eight, when 8 of us come together and we focus a positive intention, we actually energetically shift what's going on. And so as all of our listeners, we come together in this time, we are shifting bit by bit, a little bit more of reality.
So true. And, our circumstances, where we are and who we're around, don't define us. Nelson Mandela is another one who's just like that gentleman who was not in the same situation Holocaust-wise, but in prison for 27 years and did not allow his outer surroundings to dictate how he felt at any given point in time, and because he realized that he was the one determining his own experience. We don't need to put ourselves into that kind of situation to know that. However, it is an absolute fact. And if you have anything to say to us, a comment you want to make about our show, feel welcome to reach us through the podcast, Connect to Love, or actually Instagram would be another way to follow us, Connect to Love Energy, I believe. Am I correct?
Correct.
Connect to Love, to the number 2, Connect to Love Energy. We've only got about 40 seconds left to go, but I want to say thank you to you very much, Lisa, because you inspire me continually every day. Our conversations just continue to blow my mind, and I really want to express my appreciation. Okay.
As you, Michael, I'm so grateful to you and also to our listeners. We are powerful co-creators of our experience, and we can all live in harmony and love. Just love. Love is who you are. Be love and continue to connect to love. And thank you, Michael, and thank you to everybody. Enjoy.
Bye-bye.